Hello, friends and family. How are you doing today? It's not that bad of a day today. I would say it's not that bad of a day at all. So, I thought I could sneak in there, but there's a car who's being a little bit tricky on me. So, I wanted to talk about something I was thinking about the other day, and that's with experts, and that's with getting experts for help. I want to tell you a quick story about my life and some of the different points in it where I've just made various decisions and what I got out of it versus what I would have hoped to get out of it. And this goes back to way back in the day. So one of the first positive experiences I had with working on somebody was way back in the day where I wanted to start making music, and I met good old Eric James Ackerman at Audio Might Records or Audio Might Productions, and the situation was that my buddy, who went by the rapper name of Jitty, was going to be recording some music over there, and he told me that I should probably come because him and I would dick around with beats and stuff. I remember that Mikey Clark, the guy who would make stuff for like ICP, because, well, my buddy was really, really, really into ICP and psychopathic record stuff. But he had a album that was called Beats to Back That Ass Up. And it was just something, like, I don't know thinking back on it, what the purpose of the CD was. I'm guessing it was like a promotional CD for himself to possibly buy those beats or his beats. I don't know. But anyways, having a CD of beats or just like little musical tracks or like a regular length song were interesting because it gave me the opportunity to go and like play on a battlefield, or go on there and actually play on a playfield. What? A playground? I don't know. I'm trying to say that for once I had the opportunity and a medium to be able to practice like making lyrics to something that was just already made and sounding halfway decent. And I used to horse around with it. But getting back to the story, when we were going back and forth with that kind of stuff, he said I should go to the studio. And when I did, I was like, wow, this is really cool. I want to go ahead, and I had a song in mind that I wanted to make, and we ended up doing that. I kind of talked my way through it. I didn't really know what I wanted. I just had lyrics that I'd been singing because the first song that I made was when the person who I was with at the time and I separated. Now that ended up being my wife later on in the long run, but that breakup had a big impact on my life, and I wanted to make a special song for her. So, long story short, I worked with Eric for a decent amount of time, religiously every single Wednesday. And there was a certain time where I kind of wanted to up my game a little bit, figure out more for myself, and he provided me with a version of Reason, which was a beat-making software, and he really encouraged me to try to go get Pro Tools, which I had for a little bit, but I never really got the hang of using. I never even tried to really use it. But, fast forward a couple years, Eric wasn't as available anymore. Like, he wasn't really able to go and do his routine because life was catching up, and he wanted to... I just want to see who the hell that was. Okay. Life was catching up with him, with his family and so forth, so he wasn't really available as much. So that left me in a situation where I kind of wasn't doing anything because when I went over to the studio, he was the person who brought a majority of the progress to the table. I had the lyrics, I kind of had a rough idea after using Reason where I would play on my keyboard, but I didn't do a whole lot. So, fast forward a little bit. I stopped making music for a little bit because I'm waiting for Eric to be available. In my back of my head, it's still going to be eventually. And just to throw it out there, we did keep working on music periodically, but it went from, making at the beginning would have been like 6 tracks in a year to maybe something more like 1 or 2 every couple years. So it severely went down over time. And I really had this passion for wanting to make stuff with like board games. So, me and my buddies would always play Magic the Gathering. And I thought it would be really cool to go ahead and make a game kind of like that, because there's a lot of things in Magic the Gathering I didn't necessarily like. So I wanted to do something myself. And I used the holes that I felt that Magic had in it and used that as the basis for my new game. And I decided, you know what, I wanted to have like a board and stuff, and made this really complex structure for a game that I didn't really have any way of making. And matter of fact, because I didn't have any way of making it and I didn't have any real special means of drawing, I decided I'd go out of my way and make it a stick figure based graphics, just for the sake of being able to get away with it. But that would be the theme, so I can get away with it, right? It would be called Ultimate RPG with stick figures in parentheses. So I had this cool idea to get this out, and I wrote up the rules, I wrote up all the stuff on my end, and I'm like, you know what, I need to get some kind of graphic artist. This is before I knew anything about outsourcing or anything, so I'm trying to figure out, ask friends, and I had one friend, I'm not going to mention her name on here, but she was a graphic artist, and she said, yeah, I could pick up the project. And I was just like, well, hey, just let me know if you need me to pay you or something like that, because I respect your time, I want to get this done. No problem. And she ended up making a couple symbols and stuff, but what ended up happening? It went off to the wayside. People have their own stuff, and well, no progress happened. I would push and push and push, and I wasn't trying to be super like annoying about it or anything, but kind of like every now and then, just like, hey, let's draft some ideas, right? But nothing happened, and I didn't really know what to do. Fast forward a couple more years, and I'm like, okay, I want to take another stab at this. I've got an opportunity with, I found out about outsourcing, so I started going on Fiverr.com, and I found a gig for people who help make board games. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, what? I don't necessarily, well, actually, no, at the time I did want to make a game that was going to be more like that game, but the person told me that it was a little bit kind of all over the place and a little bit more in depth than what traditionally he would have worked with. So I still had like this silly game that I wanted to finish, which back in the day, me and my buddy would always joke about how silly it would be if there was like a game where like legitimately the concept was like you're at a wedding and like people are eating a bunch of food and you can't stop yourself from eating a food, and you just end up pooping yourself. And I was like, I want to call it like Please Don't Shit Your Pants, which is just fucking out of control. And I started working with this guy, his name was Alan, and he ended up coming up with the designs, but he was from a different country, I can't remember where it was from, and he came up with a full design, I guess we can call it a prototype. Had it sent to my house, went through Game Crafter. I didn't really do a whole lot of that stuff myself. He set a lot of that up, but I was hoping for like a working relationship. I wasn't really that much of a pain in the ass, I know for a fact, because I would just like openly communicate about like what I was thinking. He would tell me what he was thinking, and if there was a small adjustment, I would just tell him. And well, long story short, I got to a point where the game was kind of like not done, and I needed to figure out some stuff, and I was going to come back to it later on in a little bit. And when I came back to him, he just fell off the face of the earth. He was the one who uploaded all the files up to it because I didn't want to have to deal with all that stuff, although it was always available for me to do. Sorry for all the coughing. And, well, so where am I going with this? Well, there's been a lot of situations in my life where you want to have a collaboration or you want to work with somebody and you have a dream inside of your head that you want to get out and you want to get it finished. But when you try to look for certain experts and stuff, everyone has their life and everyone's got stuff going on. Right now, as an example for the board game, I don't think Alan does anything with board games anymore. Like, I think that just fell off the face of the earth. I had one guy who knew Alan who was going to help me. Good old Mathis. He was going to help me with like my business model, because I've always been pretty open, like, hey, I don't really know what I'm doing, so if I could find somebody to kind of get me there closer, maybe I can get like a consultant or something. And I was actually paying for his services and stuff. But then he had like an emotional crisis or something happened in his life and just kind of fell off the face of the earth again. So there's been so many different things where I figured I would go and try to get an expert, and well, I don't know. They would just fall away somewhere. And it's really interesting because Robert Kiyosaki was always talking about that you don't want to be the most important person in your business. Well, you don't want to be the smartest and most talented and most whatever. You want to surround yourself with people who are able to establish themselves in those roles to take care of those, and you be like the leader of that or coordinator for those talents. But every single time when I try to pick up a new talent, or I try to pick up somebody who I was hoping to pick up one of those pieces, I ended up having to just learn it myself. Like, later on, I ended up getting together with old Justin. So, we've been making music for a while, and we still get together to this day. He's one of the rare examples of an actual good, or I should say great collaborator. But, it's from working with him that I was kind of like started getting back into guitar, and I started thinking about mixing my own stuff and doing all this stuff. And there's just this point where, like, really recently, you know what, I know what else I wanted to talk about. I want to talk about like ex libris and stuff like that, because more recently I find myself getting to this topic of conversation because I'm at the point where I wanted them to help me get my audiobook ordeal just taken care of. I wanted them to do like press release stuff on my behalf and all this other stuff. But every single one of these turning stat points, I gotta do that shit myself. I gotta like sign a bunch of papers and do a whole bunch of stuff. Not just like, oh, here, sign this paper and we'll get it done for you. More like you gotta fill out all these papers and you're essentially doing all the work already. And they just throw it out to a bunch of sources. It's like, oh Jesus, you could just do that yourself. Same with publishing music. It's just like you could just put that stuff on the platforms yourself. You don't need anyone else to really do that shit. And then I'm just doing the audiobook by myself, and I'm going to be submitting it myself. So, I don't know. We have this weird thing where it's just like we want to have experts figure out our situations for us, but that doesn't always work out. And some of the most exciting things and most beneficial things I've ever had was me learning to do it myself. Now, I don't think that you should have to do every single thing by yourself, but I don't know. I would just say, honestly, tip of the day, anything you want to do, just start it yourself. If you find somebody else to help you do it better, that's great. But don't wait several years just because you're waiting on somebody else. That is not worth it. And that's easy to do because you think you got in the back of your head that's like, okay, eventually it's going to come to fruition, but no, it just takes years and years and years, and then you realize you haven't done shit. So, alright, that's all I got for today.